Hey, everybody, welcome to Half Passed Out Podcast. It's Christian. I've got Hunter with me here. And for the first time ever, Will is not with us. I think this is the first episode he's missed. So fuck him. But
What
we've
a
got a
dick.
great new special guest, one of our good buddies, Cody. Welcome to the podcast, Cody. What are you guys drinking? What are you wearing?
Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. We got a couple of whiskeys here. I'm going with Whistle
Ooh.
Pig myself. Fancy Whistle Pig, right?
Is Whistle
And-
Pig fancy?
Well, I got the fancier version of Whistle Pig.
I
Let's just
see.
say that.
Okay.
There we go.
Some sort of reserve, if you will.
Exactly.
Limited
exactly. And then
release.
Hunter's got
I have a combination. Okay, the watch and drink pairing here is something that we've never seen before on the podcast.
Okay.
So to kick it off, debuting on the pod, I am wearing the Moon Swatch Saturn.
Excellent choice.
I
Excellent choice.
Just filmed the unboxing and review, which oddly enough is going to be coming from yours truly, Cody. It is our first unboxing from a non-watch person. So a very unique opportunity to get the perspective from somebody that you might not hear from all the time. So that'll be a very interesting one. And so it's making its debut on my wrist during this podcast. And I thought I needed to find a drink that really mixed things up, almost like scattered things.
So you got
So-
absinthe.
I have the Scatterbrain whiskey, which is a fan favorite in Christian's household. As far as I'm concerned, it is a chocolate banana whiskey.
Wow. I love that you set yourself up for the pun. I do really appreciate it.
It's so good. So for those of you that haven't had the Scatterbrain, there's a big old monkey on it. It's got a yellow label. And let me tell you, this
Is it
shit's
actually
dangerous. It's dangerous, man.
it's dangerous. I agree with him on that.
Okay.
You're going to have to try it. I just cracked the bottle. Lots of sugar in this guy.
That's what you
So-
want out of a whiskey. You want a real clean, sugary whiskey.
So the combination here for Cody and I is I have the Sugar Bomb in Scatterbrain, and Cody has the limited release from Whistle Pig, and we're drinking out of Waterford glasses. So
Wow, you guys are getting classy up in
I
there.
don't think it gets any better, but Cody has a watch on the wrist. What do you got there?
I do, and I actually have the Christopher Ward Trident Pro 300
Oh, you're
on-
wearing it. Nice.
on my wrist. Absolutely.
What do you
The,
think of it?
You know what? I love it. I think it's great. And I think it looks really good on my wrist, by the way.
We might be making some phone calls to Christopher Ward, seeing how many reviews we can really do here. We don't have a return label yet.
Exactly.
You know.
It can be anywhere when we get the return label.
Yeah. I mean, we might be 50 by then.
Exactly.
You never know. So we're mixing it up here in Colorado, and would love to hear, Christian, what you got on the wrist and what you're drinking.
Yeah, because you guys went so fancy that I'm just hearing about, I had to go on the other side of it. So I'm currently drinking Bud Light out of a mason jar. Yeah, that's really all that needs to be said about that. I think you all have a pretty clear image.
Is it warm or cold?
Yes. The box sits in my garage because I have no room in my refrigerator. So I would say it's lukewarm. Which is fine because it's Bud Light. There's no way to make the flavor worse. So yeah, I've got that. And then I'm wearing my Spinnaker because I have missed having a dive watch on after wearing the Christopher Ward. But it is not the same. It is so much heavier and clunkier, and I don't know if I can wear another dive watch.
You know what? I was thinking the same thing because I have a dive watch that I wear all
Yeah.
the time, and it is really heavy. But you don't notice it because, like, that's really kind of my only watch.
Yeah.
So I don't notice the weight until I put on something like this, and now I'm like, well, okay, there's lighter watches out there.
Yeah.
That's fun.
So I have to ask, because I don't know if you'll be on for like the full review, Cody, or what you're going to join us for. You've been wearing it for however a day or however long now. Would you spend $1,000 on that watch?
Ooh, that's a good question. You know, If I had the budget, absolutely, I would spend $1,000 on this watch. I
mean,
really like it. I think
your
it looks
baby's new.
great.
They're not expensive when they're new.
You're right. No, you're right. I think just keeping the bare essentials is fine. You know,
Exactly.
you know, do that. But other than that, yeah, where else is the money going?
Yeah. It feels nice to have another dad on the podcast. Thank you for joining us today, Cody.
Well, absolutely.
Taking over the pod. I love it. Yeah, I won't give too much away of my review of the Christopher Ward, but I really like the fit as well. The version that we have is the 38 millimeter variant. Most of us actually in the group have smaller wrists, so it kind of pairs well with that one.
Do you know
But
how big your wrist is? I never measured mine, so I just take wild guesses, and it's different every time.
you know, I wing it. I look at my AD dead in the eye, and I say, "Give me what you got."
Nice.
So, but yeah, it wears really well. Definitely tune into each of our reviews. I think everyone on the pod has their own separate individual review and unboxing of this watch. We have a lot of time with this thing, so really excited to take it out on the town and hopefully don't scratch it. Is kind of the
I
idea.
was so paranoid about that. Honestly, the entire time. I took it out on a hike and was very, very cautious not to slip. Also because I had a baby on my back, but mostly because I didn't want to scratch the watch.
Yeah, watch baby, watch baby.
Exactly.
I think
Baby's heel.
you have the priority straight.
Exactly.
You got it. Yeah.
Well, let's jump into it. We've got a pretty casual topic today, especially from like the heavy research that mostly Hunter did for our last big section. Watch buying experiences. A lot of the watches we buy are online, but I still prefer to go into a shop when I can. What do you guys buy, online or in shops?
I'm typically an online person with the exception of a handful of watches. So I'm going to talk specifically about my experiences in person because it's a very impersonal experience just online. You buy it, comes in 2 days to a week,
Yeah.
and there you have it. Whereas, oftentimes you don't even get the opportunity to get the watch on your wrist. And that can make a huge difference. We mention it like every other podcast at this point, like try on the watch before you make the purchase. But having that opportunity to have someone like guide you through what the options are, and really chat with an expert to get a better understanding of what you like, because it's a very personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
I am probably 60% online, 40% in person, but I'll focus a bit more in person for the podcast here today.
Cody, you have the one watch, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I got a watch for my wedding that was gifted to me from my wife, but that was obviously a very special circumstance. So technically it's part of the collection, but it's not really like a one I take out every so often. So yeah, basically I'll say that I have the one, and that was an in-person buy.
What was that like going in and was it like good experience going in, or was it weird buying your first watch?
I'd say it was a little bit of both, because I like to do a lot of my research online primarily first, and then try to get a lot of different people's opinions, talk to friends, talk to colleagues, and see, just get more information about what I might actually want. Of course, I know what styles I like primarily, but at the end of the day, I like to go in and actually, kind of like Hunter was saying, I like to have that personal experience. I like to try it on. I've had with online shopping before, it can be a dangerous game. And so I don't want to get into a situation where I get something and I don't actually like it. But, I liked the experience of actually going in and buying in person for sure.
Hunter, have you had a bad experience buying a watch in person?
Yes. I had a very interesting experience, and oddly enough, it is for the watch that I am wearing right now.
Really?
So, as a reminder, I am wearing the Mission 2 Saturn Moon Swatch, one of the most coveted watches of 2023. And, I called you. I called Will. I called you. Nobody answered. Just saying. So I was ready.
I don't think I got the call.
I think I got a dial tone for you.
That sounds right.
Verizon disconnected you.
I
So
mostly stay on
anywho,
airplane mode.
probably you got permanent airplane mode just for my calls. I go in. So first of all, like, I love this watch. Reviews coming out from Cody, and he'll kind of explain a bit more about his experience with the watch. But I've really enjoyed it thus far. I think the one thing is the strap, but that's beside the point. The experience with this watch. First of all, we live in Denver currently.
Yes.
Most of us do here. And so Denver is a top 10 city in the United States, but they don't have a Swatch retailer. So what that means is I had to go to Minneapolis. I happened
Just
to
for
be
the watch.
going. Yeah, no, this is okay. If Swatch is listening, I visited Minneapolis just to go to the Swatch store. All right.
And I'm sure Swatch is listening.
I wasn't there for anything else. So anyway,
Yes.
I go into the Mall of America, which is where their Swatch retailer is. I go in and it's fine, but I gotta harp on it. The guy there really didn't know a whole lot about what I was really asking about, which, I mean, it's your number one selling watch right now.
Yeah.
But also his information on the inventory was not right. I actually talked to two different guys in that store, and they had two different answers for the same question. And so they had more stock than what both of them were really talking about. And I'm like, okay, this is scarcity that they're just creating out of their own heads.
Yeah.
And so I just asked them, I want one of whatever you have. Just lay them out, because I wanted to take pictures and video and all that. And they were cool with that. They were cool about that. But when I was putting them on, it was cool. Like they gave me my time and space. But for Swatch to be a top 3 watch distributor in the world, they're probably number one, Christian, probably. Your guys need to know about your number one selling watch.
Yeah.
And to only have 10 stores in the US that are selling this watch, you should probably know a little bit. And it was pretty clear that it was more about like hey, I just know that we have inventory and we have these different colors, as opposed to, let me tell you about what the functionality of the watch actually is. And I kind of have to give them a little bit of pass on that, because most of the Swatch watches are kind of bare bones, quartz watches, hours, minutes, seconds hand, that's it. And that's kind of typically what they're slinging out of those stores. And this being a chronograph is a step up in terms of complications. That's just something that, in terms of my experience, it wasn't ideal. I had to go to Minneapolis, and I had on the education side of knowing like what's actually available. Regardless, it's still a great watch, and I enjoy the Saturn itself. I thought that there were a handful in person were not as brilliant as they appear online. So again, great opportunity to go in person as opposed to online. But yeah, I'm really happy with my purchase in general, but the overall experience wasn't as pleasant as it could have been.
That is one of my least favorite parts about Swatch, is that they're so limited here, or specifically the Moon Swatch, because you can buy any other swatches, regular swatches online. But that does feel crazy, because you even talked about like they didn't know much about the Snoopy either, right?
Exactly. So the Moon Swatch Snoopies at the time were only about a month old in terms of release. And I had asked him, and they're not going to give you a real answer to begin with. So again, a little bit of slack on that. But it was just as simple like, hey, do you get them? If so, like, when's the last time? Like, do you expect a shipment anytime soon? That sort of line of questioning. And I get it. Like, you're running a register, right?
Yeah.
To a degree. But at the same time, the guy's just like, we don't know nothing, And the only thing he really told me was, yeah, anytime we get inventory of those Snoopies, they're gone within an hour. So
which makes sense.
Reddit goes hard and somehow knows when the Snoopies drop. They must have the database or something.
Somebody knows something.
Somebody is in the know, and it's clearly not Half Past Out Podcast.
Hey, Swatch, sponsor us. Send us some stuff.
Yeah, send us some stuff. We'll be in the know. And you know what? You might sell some more watches. You never know.
Yeah.
We
We
could do
have
a
a handful of
collaboration.
listeners.
Yeah, I'm in for it. I'm in for it. So that was my one poor experience. I am nitpicking a bit. To be honest, I've had like mostly very pleasant experiences overall. But that was one that was just a little bit off. And I think that there's some really clear and easy ways to resolve for it, even at scale with really only 10 stores to go after.
That's fair. Yeah, I think you're right. Most of the time, going into like an AD or a watch shop is a pretty pleasant experience. Like, especially if you have like local, like we love Right Time watches. We talk about them all the time here in Colorado. Go check them out. I think there's very few places that I've had bad experiences buying watches, and most of them are from like the jewelry and fashion houses. Like I went to Louis Vuitton to try out the Tambour or whatever pretty recently after it was released, and they had one like in case, and to even like get the guy to talk to me, it was like, okay, it was already like, what else are you going to buy? There's a wait list for this watch. You're not even going to try it on. We've got some other like worse sellers that you can try on, but this watch is reserved essentially.
Yeah.
And I hate that shit.
Now, tell me this, Christian. Were you dressed to the nines for this experience? Or were you in a hoodie and shorts? Because we're talking about an $18,000 watch here.
I never go dressed to the nines because you know that like secret shopper vibe that some people give off. So I'm always dressed up nicely.
There you
go.
Know,
I always have a like nicer watch on or like an old watch on because people don't know as much about vintage watches in ADs, I think.
Yeah.
So you can get by and trick them a little easier. But like I had no problem trying on Rolexes and Omegas and everything the same day going in. I don't know. You go in with confidence, I think, and
something
just talk to people about it.
LV just wasn't buying it.
Even like Hermes I had success with, but Cartier was also kind of like hesitant when I asked to try on the tank.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, my wife had no issue with trying all of the tanks. And then we couldn't
you guys
even
go
walk
in just smelling like money.
I'll tell you this. She tried maybe like 3 or 4 tanks and, liked a couple of them. We were turned away at the door for Hermes.
Really?
They said you can try in a few hours, maybe. I'm like, there's 2 people in your store.
Yeah, I mean, I went into Hermes with a baby and had no problem trying watches.
Hey, well, that's a testament for all of our listeners. Just keep trying and maybe have a kid. You might have
honestly
some more
you
luck.
get a lot of sympathy.
Well, that's good to know. Now I have something.
Yeah, I've said it before. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast, but the bar is set so low for dads in America that if you walk out with a child and without your partner, people will just fawn over you. You can really get into any door. You can do a lot because, you're a struggling father trying to take care of a child. Now, of course, moms, you don't have that same benefit. Sorry. But it's pretty nice.
Oh, gosh.
That's interesting.
That's a polarizing take. We just lost one of our 7 listeners. I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
But otherwise, I mean, like watch shops, we went to one right before Cody's wedding down in Colorado Springs. It was run by this like mom and pop who loved just talking about watches, and it was great. I'm trying to think if I've had a really bad experience.
I had an interesting one where it did end up in a purchase, but not the direction I was going.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
So what I was considering, I went to, off of Broadway in Colorado. There is a little known shop, if you've ever listened to the radio, Williams Jewelers in Inglewood off of Broadway. And Williams Jewelers used to really only carry diamonds and then decided we're just going to branch out to just all luxury goods, call it a day. So anywho, I'm chatting with Mr. Williams.
Sure.
And well, to be clear, I am chatting to Mr. Williams' son.
I was going to make a joke about it, and I'm glad I did it.
To be clear. But, I mean, he's a grown man. So, anywho, he works there. And, I was like, I really want to take a look at the Zulu time.
Nice.
And so I was taking a look, and I wanted to see kind of what the options were, what they had in stock. And I tried it on, and I really liked it. And they had maybe like 3 or 4 different variants. I was trying them all out, laid them all out. And, Mr. Williams was really nice and was able to kind of cater to my needs in terms of all the different complications and what made this Longines better than the others. And let me try on the Spirit Flyback as well, just to see if that was something I'd rather go for. And at the end of the day, it's still, a multi-$1,000 watch. So I was like, maybe a different time. Right. And then he sussed me out. He's like, you're a guy that likes a deal. He sussed me out. No problem. It probably had something to do with me having a McDonald's Diet Coke walking into that store.
Do I love you?
He let me try on thousands of dollars worth of watches, and I was loving it. And I was like, maybe not today. And he goes, boy, oh boy, do I have something for you? And, he's a very mysterious guy, right?
Sure,
he goes, let me go to the vault.
Ooh.
And I'm like,
what a power move.
Let's do it. So he goes to the vault. Who knows if he actually went to the vault, but he comes back with a cardboard box.
Yeah, that was in his desk.
Yeah, probably. Cardboard box, like very well could have been like an Amazon box, right?
Sure.
And it is a whole bunch of loose G-Shocks.
I love that so much.
And this guy's got like if you've ever been to Williams Jewelers, the way that I like to describe this place is all of the Denver Broncos who get engaged while playing for Denver go buy their engagement ring at Williams Jewelers. That's the type of, that's what he was saying. He's like, oh yeah, I've sold like hundreds of them just over the years. And so anyway, that's kind of the place that we're working with. So he gets me this loose box of G-Shocks, right? This cardboard box, and he just puts it on the table. It is just nuts to see what's going on here. And he's like, I'll give you 30% off anything in this box. He goes, I'm trying to get rid of them. We no longer have a deal with Casio.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what we can do here. So naturally, I'm sifting through every single one of these.
Yeah.
These things are great. And sure enough, I thought, let me get a very unique, personal to me watch. Maybe looks a little bit like Christian's watch. So naturally, I came home with the GA 2100 G-Shock, which of course is the white resin case and band and the black face. I thought for sure that this was different than what Christian had. But you know what? We're twins, and I got mine 30% off.
That's honestly respect, Hunter. Yeah.
And you know what? More respect to Mr. Williams out here. I mean, when I think about how much money he saved me,
$30.
Let's just think about what would have happened. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The Zulu time was going for roughly 3,000, a little bit more than 3,000. He saved me nearly 93% cost. Okay. So he pegged me as a guy who likes a deal.
Sure.
And we're in the 90%ers with this conversation. So I gotta feel, if you need a deal of the century, you go to Mr. Williams at Williams Jewelers in Englewood, Colorado. And
look through his cardboard box.
You just look through his cardboard box. It may or may not still be here, but every once in a while they end a relationship with a brand, and they'll just need to get rid of a handful of units. Yeah. So that was the situation there. But if you look on their website, it only has Rolex. Go into the store. They have tons of others. So definitely check them out as well. They have like necklaces and engagement rings and all sorts of stuff, a handful of watches. So they're kind of a jack of all trades, but they do have quite a collection as well for watches. So that is my positive spin on an experience where I thought I was going to have walk out with the Zulu time, and I walked out with the 2100.
Did you actually think you were walking out with a Zulu time? This seems like some of that hunter math where if you're gonna spend money on it, you might as well spend 10 times.
You know, that is something that I tend to do. Who's to say? Who's to say? You know, it didn't happen, so I guess we'll never know.
Cody, I want to ask you, because you've bought one watch in person.
Yeah.
Otherwise, looked around online. When you go into, I guess, what is the ideal experience you would expect if you're looking to spend, say, $2,000, $3,000 on a watch like the Zulu time?
That's a good question. I like that hearing some of your experiences, especially this last story. That was fantastic. Just to get an idea of the experiences that I should be looking for, right? But no, if I'm looking for a watch, which I intend to in the future for that kind of money, yeah, I'm looking to, try everything on, make sure I first of all, if it fits my wrist, it fits my style, kind of what I'm looking for. I'm not trying to be, like turned, off from anything. Like I like options. I like to be shown, hey, these are all the things that, are in that kind of price range. I want to see everything. I typically don't necessarily dislike anything out the gate. So like, show me what you got. And if it comes in a cardboard box, like bring it on, right? Especially if it's going to save you 93%.
Sure.
But it's those kind of things, and I haven't actually really been, obviously truly like watch shopping before. That one experience was kind of a, hey, I was in a store, walked by the jewelry section, saw the watches, and usually every time I'm around, I try to just sneak a peek over there and just see what's going on, what some of the looks are. But I just happened to be wanting to start a watch collection. This was the first one. So this store that I'm talking about, this is actually when I was stationed in Germany last year, 2 years ago. No, it's 2 years ago now. And so it's actually the BX, which is essentially our mall on base.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but this was like a legit mall and has so many sections to it. But yeah, I just walked by the jewelry store and the jewelry part of it, and saw this. I was in between my Citizen, which is the one I got, and a Seiko, which also looked really good. They were very similar. They both had blue faces, and they pretty much felt the same. But for some reason, just the Citizen was calling out to me a little bit more on that day. That was about similarly priced as well, and I ended up getting the Citizen for $350, which.
Nice.
I was,
it's a nice Citizen too.
I love it. I think it's super, super cool. And I love a good diver's watch. So I'm super glad that was like the first one in my collection. Yeah. For the kind of like experiences that I want to look for in the future is, looking for those different watch shops, like actual watch shops. I'm curious to see what that experience is going to be like. I'm really excited to try that out. For sure.
Do y'all ever get intimidated going into places like that, like high-end jewelry stores or like jewelry stores in general, like ADs, just places where, I don't know, everybody's dressed in suits and there's security at the door type places?
For me, it's more of a act like you've been there.
Fair, yeah.
So I think that a lot of it is a bit of smoke and mirrors, right? You're trying to create that exclusivity experience. But at the end of the day, everyone's got a little bit of cash, and most of the they all provide financing options for these watches, and I'd argue most people need that option.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I haven't really been all that intimidated. My thought is like, you roll in there, what's the worst thing they do? Like turn you around?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try again somewhere else. And I might try in that same place 20 minutes later. Who knows?
Fair enough. Just get a different salesperson.
Just get a blazer.
Yeah,
and good.
There you go.
That's what I did at Swatch.
Or a baby.
Yeah, if you want high success rate, get a baby and try every AD you can find.
It's never failed me.
Every rep. Yep.
No, I think that's a good point that you made, is like just kind of like act like you've been there kind of situation. I think the only time I've been intimidated walking into a store like that was when I was in Paris, just because it was Paris.
Yeah.
And we were in the rich part. No reason to be there. We were waiting for dinner reservations. We just happened to be in the neighborhood, and you're walking by Tiffany, you're walking by all these different, Louis Vuitton, you're walking by all these places. That was probably the only time I was intimidated, just because, first of all, I don't speak the language. I don't know if they're going to be you're not French, so get out of here. But actually, it wasn't bad. Like, they were fairly acceptable. Like, we walked in there at the time. I was looking for engagement rings, but they were like trying to sell me on a lot of stuff. I'm like, I may look like I got it, but I guarantee you, I am not buying anything from this store today.
And of course, engagement rings for the person, which at the time we were told was just your friend.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, I still feel the need to lie when I go into these places.
Yeah.
Like, especially, I've been to a lot of them multiple times now, and I always give them a fake name. I always give them the fake phone number, and I don't need to, but I feel like I have to create this persona.
Oh, man. I love it.
You got a whole backstory too, of course, right?
Honestly, yeah. There's a few shops I trust that like know me well enough now, but anytime I get like a new salesperson at some of the bigger, more like jewelry stores with a bunch of different brands, I'm always lying to them every single time.
I love it. Well, Monica is the only one that has the truth.
That's true. Monica, shout out to you. You're probably one of the main reasons this podcast exists.
True that. Christian, what's your most positive experience purchasing a watch?
Oh, shit.
Most pleasant, walked away, huge grin on your face. Give us the
It
deets.
was... So the best experience was at a pawn shop. And I essentially sold the watch that I was wearing, which was some pilot's watch, or I don't even remember. Walked out with the Seiko, the vintage Seiko that I have, which was excellent. Mostly because of the deal I got. I got that for a screaming fucking deal, and got way more for the watch that I was wearing than it was worth. Loved that experience. As far as like in a watch shop goes, there is a little shop in what's the big rich city? Cherry Hills. Not big city, but Cherry Hills, Colorado Watch Company, I want to say their name is. And I went in with a baby, and it's this tiny little one-room shop. Sat down and met like the whole staff there, and they were super like nice and welcoming. Of course, they have a dog because it's a small business in Colorado. So the dog came out, and yeah, I got to try on like the Rolex Milgauss, which is one of my dream watches. And we talked about old vintage watches because I was wearing my Longines at the time. And I think I don't know, it felt like I very much came into a community and was very welcomed. So shout out to Colorado Watch Company. Go check them out if you want a vintage or pre-owned watch. They have got one of the best selections in Colorado, I think. And yeah, it was just a very welcoming experience. Not like some of the others where I went to a vintage watch shop and just got talked down to by the old man who ran the place the entire time. So, highs and lows to these places, but yeah, that was probably my best experience.
Very cool. It sounds like you've got all across the gamut here.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in watch shops on paternity leave, much to my wife's chagrin.
Love it. I think probably my most positive experience actually was a watch that wasn't for me. I was at
Did you get me a watch?
The holy grail of watch stores at Right Time.
Yes, of course.
And working with Monica, just making sure that I understood all the different inventory that's coming in, and obviously she knows us, so we're working through everything. It's like my wife is interested in getting her first non-Apple watch.
Nice.
Right. And my wife loves to ask questions, and she'll listen to this later, so she knows exactly what I'm talking about. We spent no less than 2 hours in Right Time.
Holy shit.
And, Liv is going to ask every question, right? Mm-hmm. And they were so patient. Liv still asking some of the more basic questions, sure, but they took the time to show her, the whole gamut of watches that can be sub 100 if they're discounted, and then all the way up to, watches that were 10, 15 G's, and let her try on anything she wanted. And, as she would poke around, her shopping style is, oh, let me look at this one, and then I'll look at that for maybe 15 minutes. I'll hold on to it, and then I'll try out something else, and like all throughout the store. And she did land on purchasing a watch. I think it is from Bearing.
Nice.
It is a like breast cancer awareness watch. So it's in all pink, and it's just like a quartz watch. It's very much so a fashion watch, but it's very interesting. The face itself has different sheens of pink that are opposite of each other within the dial itself, and then there's I think 6 of those different pieces that act as the indices. So it's
That's
just
cool.
2 stick, 1 hour hand and 1 minute hand, and that's it. So it's a very base, like clean level watch. Melanie's pink strap. It is like powder coated paint, so it will come off eventually, but you can always get a new one.
Yeah.
But what was great about that experience was, again, I wasn't purchasing for myself, right? So that was the first time I had gone through that experience. But at the same time, having that relationship with the retailer was really great because they took the time to understand who that customer was. And in her case, it was a first-time watch buyer, which a lot of people are. Just kudos to Monica and the Right Time team for taking literally 2 hours to sell one watch. It was really a great experience for her to be able to go out and experience her first piece of horology.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's all I've got. Anybody have last comments?
Fuck Will.
Yeah, fuck you, Will. You're probably the only. I know you're gonna listen to it because you edit these. So
I love it. Well, these whiskeys have been excellent.
Yeah, I've actually been smelling yours the entire time.
Yeah,
It's been great.
The Scatterbrain is very pungent.
Oh,
I believe it.
It's fantastic.
You could probably smell this from the basement, and we are in the top floor of the house. So let me tell you, try it out. It's a sipper. Only because if you don't, you might pass out. But yeah, I think it pairs well with the mission to Saturn. I think that we're mixing things up today.
Nice.
I really enjoyed this mission to Saturn watch, and actually being able to do like an unboxing, be able to do a review. I'm first so review of pretty much anything. First of all. Okay, and then let alone be something that I don't really know too much about. I know what a watch looks like, but I was like, it was great just to kind of get to explore it, which is
awesome.
Which is kind of cool. It was that first experience. So I really liked it, and that's something that I would 100% love to have in my collection too at one point. That'd be great.
Good, because when you go back to California, we're gonna start texting you to go to the Swatch boutique for us.
Okay, well, hey, just let me know.
There's one in LA.
Let me know.
You're on speed dial, my friend. Well, Cody, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the Half Passed Out podcast. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. We'll have to have Cody on again. But Christian, any last words? Otherwise, like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Check out our YouTube. We're putting a bunch of new stuff up and growing every day. Everything's under Half Passed Out. Nobody else wanted the name, so we've got it on every platform. Yeah, cheers, everybody.
Cheers.